It is time for the buffoon of the week here on Mackey and Judd. Presented by our friends at Federated Mutual Insurance Company, the opposite of buffoons. In fact, they're here to help raise the level of intelligence at your business. Not that you need help as a business owner with your intelligence level, but they're all about helping maximize your business with risk management tools and resources. They've been around for over 100 years, and you can find them online at federatedinsurance.com, where it's our business to protect yours. All right, the buffoon of the week this week, and I hate to do this because the article in whole was fine, but Evan Sidery is an author at basketballnews.com. And the headline and the tweet that he put out on this article was entitled, "On the biggest stage of his career, Andrew Wiggins is proving the naysayers wrong." Now, in the article, I will say he did a good job of explaining, Wiggins not living up to expectations in Minnesota and then finding a role and grabbing freaking 16 rebounds in Game 4 of the NBA Finals.
Yep.
But why do we do this? Well, this has been a thing now for 2 years with Andrew Wiggins, now culminating with probably his most effective game considering the circumstances. And just like if they lose that game, they're almost certainly going to lose the series. Why do we let someone underachieve for 6 years, and then the minute they finally have a light bulb go off in a role that was much, much less than he was expected to be in Minnesota, right?
Sure.
Now we turn it on the doubters. Oh, the doubters were wrong. The naysayers and the doubters were wrong about Andrew Wiggins.
Can't you admit you're wrong, Phil?
Were they,
Can't you?
though?
I said I was wrong before. Can't you admit you're wrong?
Why can't it be... And again, the actual text of the article did a pretty good job laying this out. But to frame it this way is so ridiculous. Why can't it just be framed as, boy, after struggling mightily to live up to expectations and to play anywhere near his peak capability for the first 6 years of his career, Andrew found a really good niche spot with a dynasty team where he can blend in and be the fourth guy, sometimes ascending to the second guy because the pressure is less, right? No one's going into these games thinking, well, Andrew Wiggins needs to step up and deliver or he's going to get filleted. If he delivers, it's a bonus. I just don't like the way that we frame this.
Because you're not going to read it unless it's framed that way. They get far more people to get upset like you just did and read the article. Exactly. If they're like, he's in a perfect role now, which is all true. Then you're like, okay, yeah, that's fair. In fact, you know what? I'm bored with this. But when they say the naysayers are getting their just desserts, you're like, bleep that. That's why they do it.
I mean,
they got you. They got you hook, line, and sinker.
Even so, Draymond Green, I think he said this on his podcast. I'm getting this quote from NBA Twitter. So he said on his podcast, he told a sort of a first-person story of being in the locker room after the game. Yep. And he said, quote, Steph Curry looked up, and I said, wow, Wiggs, that's incredible, 16 rebounds. But we must tell you how pathetic that is that your previous high was only 11 rebounds. And Wiggins said, I know, man. But forget that. You got it done tonight, brother, Draymond told Wiggins. When we needed it the most, it was absolutely amazing. So, even Draymond's walking in after this 16-rebound performance and saying, how have you never done that before? You can clearly do it. You're capable of doing it. How have you never grabbed more than 11 rebounds in a game before? So he
can all tell him,
mean-spirited, but yeah.
We can all tell him because he didn't apply himself for a very long time.
Well, how does it make you feel when I don't know how much you guys watched of Game 4, but he was an Energizer bunny for the 30-plus minutes he was on the court. He was hand in face of every Celtics jump shot seemingly the entire second half. He was grabbing rebounds, getting out in transition, cutting to the hoop. He wasn't making all of his shots, but he wasn't shying away from. He was just pulling the trigger on big threes and big shots. When you see that version of Wiggins, how does that make you feel?
Not surprised. One, he's in a perfect role with a perfect team for him. So he has been slotted into the role that he can do. And there are times, and we've seen this, there are games where he is going to pop up and play great. He's going to give you things that you're like, oh my God, yeah, why don't we see that more? But that being said, here's the thing. Of all of the ones in this godforsaken sports state that have gotten away, right? And we've had a lot of them. We can go through the list, but I don't want to. Wiggins is one that one, I'm not surprised, and two, I'm not sad he's gone. Because I don't think with the Wolves, as they were constructed, I don't think that there was ever going to be a time where he was going to cross that threshold or barrier consistently to make himself into the player that this franchise, and this is the very important thing, that this franchise needed. Mm-hmm. In Golden State, it's perfect. But I mean, you tell me, if he stays here, what happens? Like, do you think that, oh my God, he's now applying himself all the time and playing great? I don't.
Yeah, I think I'm trying to think of if you go back and did the alternate reality of, okay, they don't make the trade for D'Lo.
Mm-hmm.
Well, ideally, you would have just kept Jimmy Butler at that point, right? And tried to ride out maybe with a different coach or something. Maybe you pay Butler and you bring a different coach in or something than Tom Thibodeau. But I think it was headed for a blow-up almost no matter what. But to your point, he's making max money. But the Warriors the Warriors were able to make it work trade-wise because they swapped out the D'Lo contract, and then they've been willing to go up into the luxury tax. They are paying historical amounts in luxury tax for this team because they're trying to squeeze the last couple of years out of a dynasty. And so the fact that they can pay him the money that he was making with, based on the idea of him leading a team, like he's still getting paid based on what you thought he was going to be 3 years ago as the centerpiece of a franchise. And they can afford it, and they can afford to put Hall of Famers like Clay and Steph around him also making max money because they're so far in the luxury tax. The other funny thing about this Warriors team, the beginning of the fourth quarter of Game 4, a must-win finals game. If you lose, you're down 3-1. You've been losing almost the entire game, and you need a jolt at the beginning of the fourth quarter. And the Warriors were leaning on Andrew Wiggins and Nemanja Bjelica for the first 5 minutes of the fourth quarter. Bjelica, and he's playing pretty well. He's in the rotation of an NBA Finals series on a dynasty team.
But the Warriors, like you watch that right now machine go, and you can put parts in that work, right? That's the weird things. So when I was a kid, I would see guys on teams like that be great or be really effective, not great. And then think, oh my God, if the Twins could get that guy, right? And then the guy would sign with a team to play a far bigger role. And what would happen a lot of times? He'd take a massive step back because he was put into a system. Like, I think that's the thing that we as sports fans don't acknowledge or think about. Why do some guys play so well with great teams, but then they don't play as well? Well, it's because they're asked to do far more, and they don't have a star by their side, and now they get downtrodden because they really weren't that good. Like, that's the thing about sports is we watch guys have success in all sports and think, if that guy gets on the Jacksonville Jaguars, he's going to be fantastic. That's not necessarily true.
Yeah, don't you think excuse me, I think one of the problems Jimmy Butler had 5 years ago was there was just a general lack of urgency among the roster and the players. And like Thibodeau and Jimmy Butler come over, and it's like practices feel urgent. Guys, this is going to be intense. We're going to yell at each other, and we're going to get better and all these things. And that wasn't the way the Wolves had been operating for the last couple of years. So Wiggins goes to Golden State, and there is a peer pressure to live up to the highest version of yourself as a player.
Sure.
And if you don't, then we're not going to continue this dynasty and win championships. So I think he feels this peer pressure of, okay, Steph, Clay, Steve Kerr, Draymond, who's been playing mostly crappy in the series, but these guys are serious. And so I can't just be coasting around and taking pull-up shots from 20 feet and not grabbing rebounds. Like, I feel pressure within the team, not from the media and the fans, to actually do something in these games.
And I think the pressure, though, also lessens because you're put into a cocoon of success. So, like, that cocoon insulates you. So, like, you can go do your role, and there's expectations from the players, but when there's that many great players in a system that's fantastic, I think it actually, for a guy like we're talking about, it insulates Wiggins enough where he feels emboldened and has an ability. Here he was looked to lead, right? Like it's Cat and Wiggy, and he couldn't do it. He couldn't do it consistently, and he basically said that. And so the problem was people here look to him. There, he looks to them.
You know, it's funny if you look at his games in the playoffs. Let's go back because they played, Denver in the first round. Well, let's just go through his entire playoffs here real quick. If you were to look at his playoff log and his box score through the expectations of what he needed to be in a Timberwolves uniform, which was the leader of a franchise or one of the top 2 stars, you'd say, okay, 16. Let's go back to the first round. Okay, 16 points, 13 points on 9 shots, 9.6 rebounds on 6 shots. You'd say, boy, that's not getting it done as a max player leading a team with those expectations with the Timberwolves. Yeah. Even in the finals, he had the 20.5 rebound first game. You'd say, yeah, that's about the bare minimum of what you should be doing with the Timberwolves expectations from 5 years ago. 11.6 rebounds in game 2 on 4 of 12 shooting. That's a dud. Okay, and then, game 4, 17.16 rebounds. That would have been the expected standard every night.
Yes.
If the Timberwolves had played out the way that you thought they could with when they traded for Wiggins, all those years ago. So high expectations, he was never living up to them. But in Golden State, the expectation bar was dropped so much that when he goes off for 20 points and 5 rebounds, it's like, whoa, holy crap. Right. Andrew Wiggins, oh my God, 17 points and 16 rebounds. Like, well, he's been capable of this for 7 years. And he's now over-delivering because we have dropped the expectation bar so much. And credit to him, because that was an amazing game. And if he doesn't play that way, 43 minutes, by the way, if he doesn't play that way, they probably don't win, and they're probably cooked in this series. But the expectations changing is what's making the perception so much different.
And in the Wolves' defense, I don't think Gerson was going to now you don't look back, in my opinion, and say, oh, he should have gotten so much more, right? Like, oh, how could you not get more? Or why would you make that trade? He was who he was here. And to the stats that you just threw out, Phil, what he was here works there. And he's going to have an occasional great game. He did here. Like, there were, how many times did we flip on the mics of the old show after a Wiggy special and say, oh, man, now that should be the expectation, right? Yeah. Like in this game, he played the Cavaliers, and he's mad at them still. I mean, he's the student that has the potential to get straight A's. There's no doubt about that. And he slacks a lot. He's just in a really good school now where I would say it's safe to say some of his fellow classmates do some of the work for him at times.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned, so he is a better version of himself, but it's not that far off. So you compare this year's playoff averages to the 5 games he played against the Rockets 5 years ago when the Wolves got beaten 5. He was averaging 16 points in that series. He's averaging 16 points in these playoffs. He was averaging 2 assists in those playoffs. He's averaging 2 assists in these playoffs.
Wow.
The rebounds, he's grabbing more rebounds. So he's averaging 7 rebounds in these playoffs, 5 in the previous playoffs. And he's a little bit more of an efficient shooter. He's not taking as many of those long twos with a hand in his face. And so his effective field goal percentage has gone from 49 to 53%. So a little bit more efficient, grabbing a few more rebounds, and the rest is fairly similar. I'm sure he's a little bit more engaged on defense if we were to go back and look at that series against the Rockets 4 years ago. But it's a very similar version. The volume cranked up a little bit, the intensity cranked up a little bit, but because the expectation bar is so much lower, here we are. All right, boys. I got another one for you.
I want a mock.
It is mock season. NBA mock draft season. And I'll tell you, there's not as much of an NBA draft landscape as the NFL draft landscape. You don't have there's not like a Walter football version of the NBA mock world that I've found anyways.
Okay.
Is there a Walter basketball?
Walter's busy on football, dude. Don't ask him to be doing basketball. And spread themselves too thin.
I'm not going to disable my ad blocker. Sorry,
don't
Walter
do that.
football. Sorry, guys. All right, if you could fire the music here, Declan, I'm going to give you guys from ESPN.com. This is a consensus mock draft from ESPN.com. So it's where each player is most likely or most often mocked or landing or whatever. Yeah. I'm going to spare you every the other picks. Chet Holmgren goes number 2, whatever. Let's just get right to the Minnesota Timberwolves at 19. According to the ESPN.com consensus mock, they select 18-year-old Serbian forward Nikola Jovic, who Doogie brought up in the scoop session last Thursday. Not to be confused with Nikola Jokic. This is Nikola Jovic. Here's the write-up. After an encouraging season, the Timberwolves look to bolster their depth at the forward spots with another dynamic shooter who doesn't need the ball, can facilitate for others, and has upside to grow into long-term. Jovic has excellent size at 6'10", a strong feel for the game, and could slide nicely between Jaden McDaniels and Jared Vanderbilt while not detracting from the Wolves' core of Anthony Edwards and Karl Anthony Towns. In the NBA.com GM survey from this last season, Jovic received votes for the best international player not playing in the NBA yet. And at the 2021 Euro Basketball League Next Gen Tournament, which is 18 and under players, international tournament 18 and under in Belgrade, he averaged 29 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 blocks in 28 minutes per game. Wow. 28 minutes per game. He put up those numbers against some of the other great young players around Europe while shooting 66% from the field. Nikola Jovic to the Timberwolves.
I want a mock.
You
Dumb
guys
question,
haven't
but
done a lot of film study on him.
But
what
would
are your
he be
thoughts
coming
on
over? Would he be here immediately? Is he a guy that wouldn't be here? Like that's always my question about guys like that. I'm just curious about what the timetable is for them to be here because in my sport, it takes them a while sometimes.
Yep.
Maybe 5 years.
I don't know. It's a good question. Maybe let's just see here. Will Nikola? Let me Google that for you, Judd. Will Nikola Jovic play
You don't have to.
in 2022? Well, if he's a first-round pick, I mean.
Well, yeah. That's what I'm just asking if there's any.
Let's get him in the mix here. By the way, WalterFootball.com, they have a mock draft database, but they only show the first 5 picks of all these mocks.
What the hell?
It's awfully lazy.
It is.
I know that you're WalterFootball.com, but don't do an NBA mock draft base without putting more picks on here.
I'm surprised that they've gone down the path of adding that much workload to the WalterFootball.com empire, or Walter Empire, I guess we should call it. It's like, guys, you got to focus on football.
I know. Yeah, don't spread yourself
What's
too
next?
thin here.
Hockey mock draft?
Well, let's see here. Hold on.
18-year-old from Saskatchewan's looking pretty good. He's a left defenseman, but he can play the right side.
Will he stay at Colorado College for another year, or will he come over?
Walter Hockey. Yeah, there's no Walter Hockey.
Good.
That's too bad.
Good. We don't want Walter to have a hockey.
There. Amazing. All right, there it is.
Draft.
There's your Timberwolves mock here. Presented by Dennis Kirk. It's riding season all summer long. Dennis Kirk has you guys covered. Whether you ride Harleys, Indians, Metric Cruiser sport bikes, 160,000 parts and accessories in stock, free shipping on orders over $89, and same-day shipping on orders placed before 8 p.m. Ride more, wait less at DennisKirk.com. All right, any final words of wisdom? Did you guys
I
watch
got a
the
question
Live Golf
for
Tour?
you. No.
No.
Is your question
no,
about
not.
the Live Golf Tour? 'Cause
It's
I've
not
got
about the Live
plenty of
Golf Tour.
takes.
It's basketball. So you watched the whole thing? Or a bunch
Well,
of it?
I didn't watch the whole thing, but I ducked
okay,
in
you
and
watched
out,
a bunch of it?
Well, got a bunch of Stranger Things in this weekend. Finally started Stranger
Yeah,
Things.
we did too. It's good.
Love
Good
it.
stuff.
Really? Yeah, that's great.
Really spooky.
Check it out.
Oh, boy, it sounds scary. Here's my basketball question for you, Phil. In watching the playoffs and now the first few games of the finals, and I don't mean to say that you're supposed to say it's close, but where do you feel that the Wolves are at? So like in watching, because I think watching playoffs really crystallizes, for instance, the Wild. I think it really crystallizes, like you see what has to be done, the intangibles, like there's so many things. How good do you feel about the Wolves in watching these playoffs?
Man, I almost feel like we might need to unpack this more, like on tomorrow's show.
Okay,
Can we do that? That's a really good, and we're gonna get a game tonight.
yeah, Dex and I can throw in some puck too, because I really think this helps.
Can I get like 22 hours to just form my thoughts? I'll give you a
Absolutely.
teaser. The biggest thing you notice with these teams, and some people are going to say, well, yeah, Steph Curry, like you need a Steph, and yes, you need, and the idea is that Anthony Edwards can be whatever that guy is. I'm not saying he's going to be Steph Curry, but can he be a top 6 player in the league? So you need a Jason Tatum, you need a Jaylen Brown, You need a Steph Curry. That's a given. And Anthony Edwards hopefully is ascending to that. But when you watch these teams play, they know exactly who they are. There's no, oh my God, now they're blowing some leads here and there, but it's not because they are just like getting nervous and they don't know what to do and they're just chucking up a bunch of dumb shots. Usually they're blowing leads because the opposing team just found a way to play a different defensive look or something. Like the Wolves get into the fourth quarter and they just don't know what they're supposed to do. They don't know what the pecking order is of who should shoot. They don't have any go-to sets that they can rely on late in games. Yep. And these teams you're seeing late all very much do. And so that's the biggest thing that Finch and Anthony Edwards getting older and better are going to have to figure out. So let's talk more about that tomorrow, though. Like that.
Love it.
Declan, how many episodes of Stranger Things 4 are you in?
3.5. I tried to finish the 4th. I came home from the round yesterday, and old Dex Tweets got a little sleepy, so he had to put it on pause, and he took a nap.
Is this a show that did you watch this alone, or is this not a show that you guys watched together?
I made because the gal's she hasn't started ever, and I wanted to see season 4, so I started it 'cause she was out of town, so I binged the first 3 on Friday night, and I'll just say, going to bed with that like demon. Little tough, little poor decision by Dex Tweets to go to bed with the antagonist just kind of saying Max in my head over and over again. I was like, I probably should have mixed in an Office episode before I went to bed.
Same thing happened to old Macadac on Saturday night. We binged a couple episodes of Stranger Things, had a couple drinks, and I had the most terrifying dreams of my wife and I in one of the Stranger Things houses, fighting off demons and stuff.
Oh my God.
Very unsettling. Yeah.
That's really cool.
No, it was
not cool.
It was like I was hallucinating.
That's very
demons
cool.
or something.
Yeah, no, I love bad dreams. They're great.
You should be logging your bad dreams and sharing them on the show.
I have a lot of weird dreams. They're fantastic. It's free, man.
It's
free cable. Right in my head.
Love it. All right, we'll see you guys tomorrow, and don't forget on Purple Daily, we're still talking Vikings 365 days a year. Even though the Vikings and Kevin O'Connell are taking some time off, we do not. So hit us up over on Purple Daily. We'll see you guys tomorrow.